I am just flabbergasted and just totally honored to be here. I retired last May. After 17 years here, I taught for 17 years at Purdue University before I came here back in 1993, that deep snow winter of '93. And when I left Purdue, the only good thing they could say about me was that I had this unique ability to dispense guilt and despair. I'm a wildlife biologist, and I end up teaching environmental science classes. That's what lots of wildlife biologists do. Is by the time they're 48 or so, it finally dawns on them we're not the brightest people in the world. It dawns on them that we have more wildlife biologists today than we've ever had in human history, and wildlife has never been as threatened as it is today. And so, what's wrong with that picture? And so, we oftentimes end up teaching environmental science courses and things like that, in order to ask some really important questions. You really should look at the mission statement of the University of Utah before you retire, because there are a couple of phrases in there that I pick and choose, and one of them is critical examination, and another one is social responsibility. As I left Purdue and came here, and let me just say as a disclaimer here for a minute, that everything I'm about to say I have never said. Okay, so just remember that. I used to be asked by Sam Rushforth down at BYU when he was professor of botany there to come down and give guest lectures at BYU, and he always introduced me as having a unique ability to gently insult everyone equally. And so please don't take offense at what I'm going to say, but I think that there are some really deep questions that we need to focus all of this amazing teaching experience and excitement that we possess here and at universities across the country in meeting the needs of the future, because the future is not what it used to be. The future is not what it used to be. We currently have a population of 6.9 billion people, increasing by 200,000 people per day. That's net gain. Today there are 200,000 more people on the planet than there were yesterday, births minus deaths. What that means is that every 5 days there are 1 million more people, and every year there are 82 million more people on the planet right now at current rates of increase. So whatever it is that concerns you about the bigger community, I would assume that we're all relatively secure in our own spaces, but the security of that then makes it incumbent on us to think about bigger things once we've met our own basic needs. Now, I didn't come here as tenured faculty. I didn't come here as tenure track faculty. I came here as tenuous faculty. That's a different group of teachers, okay? And so I'm actually professor, lecturer, emeritus, okay? But I came here in order to meet the needs of the biology department. I was trying to get my wife into a safe place, health-wise, into a more arid environment. And we came here from the humid Midwest to come to Utah, and it has worked out just wonderfully for everything. I mean, I couldn't imagine not having done this. The gift that the University of Utah gave to me that I would like to encourage you, if you're looking for transformative moments and experiences, is to get involved with service learning. When I came here, that was the answer to a professional dream for me, was because while I could teach large classes at Purdue and wildlife ecology, environmental science, and global environmental issues and so forth, the reason that they said what they did when I left was because that's as far as it went. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand what science tells us about human impact on this planet in these times without being troubled. And we don't, and so guilt and despair, that's the information, that's the intellectual content of these courses. And then how do we empower students to go out into the neighborhood and the communities and begin to work together in order to solve some of these problems. We're not into this because we're into guilt and despair. We're into this because we care about love, strangely enough for a biology major, love, joy, beauty, justice, and diversity of all kinds. And when we see those things threatened, we have a broken heart. And that's the point from which we then pick ourselves up and say, really, what is it that we should be doing? It is striking to me this morning, all of the times an English professor has been mentioned. How many of you in the room are associated with the English department at the U? Or have a background in English of one kind or another someplace, a real degree? Yes, okay. Okay. When I was a freshman at Purdue, actually, in engineering, mechanical engineering, my dad was an engineer. And I thought, well, I can't do better than go to Purdue and do engineering, unless it would maybe be the University of Utah. But anyway, this English professor, a graduate teaching fellow, we read poetry. And Carl Sandburg told me what to be. Anybody familiar with Two Tramps in Mud Time? I can be a tramp, that's fine. My object in life is to unite my avocation and my vocation. For only as my both eyes make one in sight, and the work is play for mortal stakes, is the deed ever really done for heaven or the future's sakes. And I went right out the next day and I changed my major from engineering to wildlife ecology. And in those days you had to have your parents sign the change of school form. Another transformative moment. I think that teaching is sharing what we love. It is sharing what we love. And when we use the word love, the next word that comes into most people's mind in a word association game is passion. And we need to have a passion for sharing and a passion for what we love. And if you do that, it will be so easy that you will feel entirely guilty about getting paid to be able to do this, even though whatever you're getting paid may not be the scale that you thought of originally. There are so many people still teaching because they feel that way because of that. I think that there are some really important questions that we have to cause students to grapple with. And in most cases, it is the student that causes us to grapple with those questions. When I left Purdue, one of the great teachers at Purdue was a guy named Sam Postlethwaite in botany. And he said we should always treat students more like people because in many ways they're like people. And the way he did that in order, just like I did, to see if you're awake. But it has come to mean something more profound for me because students, my remarks here are called working with concrete. I think that students do not yet have their worldviews completely formed. I noticed that in this culture, a lot of people do, okay? But all of the people who are at our university, faculty included, who come here because they like to ski, and then they got jobs in restaurants, and then they figured they need to be responsible, and they enroll at the U. I noticed that. It was so common that it struck me after a couple of years at the U how many of my students were the people serving me at Red Butte Cafe. And this is wonderful. This is a wonderful group. But we have worldviews. This is a transformative idea. If you understand that people have worldviews, those worldviews are based on assumptions. And very seldom are we asked to challenge our worldview assumptions. A worldview is that's a common word nowadays. It wasn't 20, 30 years ago. A worldview is a person's core values and beliefs about how the world works and about what one's role in the world should be. I believe that students are at college to help develop what that role is. And we have a tremendous responsibility to have them make that choice based on a critical examination of their worldviews.